Everyone, my name is Joey. I'm one of the leaders for the Northern Illinois University survey team. Right here is Eric. We've got Ryan and Skylar. And our advisor is Dr. Corey Allred, of course. Ryan, do you want to start us off with the triangle? Eric.
All right. Yes, sir. All right. So the first thing that we did. All right, so the first thing that we did was we used our compass to find our bearing, and then from using that bearing, we created a 3-4-5 triangle to get our 90-degree angles off of that, and this is all off of our benchmark. And so we started off with our bearing was to, I believe it was south, like 5 degrees southwest it was. And from there, we created the triangle and got our 90 degrees off of that. And from there, we used we only had 100-foot tape, so our distances on our triangles were 15 feet, 20 feet, 25 feet. And basically we used that to kind of get ourselves online to find the west center of our boundary. And then we used another triangle to find the east boundary line. And once we found those central points, we made more triangles off of those to find our 90-degree angles again to get the actual north-south direction on those east and west boundary lines.
So this is just a little bit more going into detail of what Eric was just explaining to everybody. When we pulled off of the benchmark, we pulled off 104.3 feet to the west, and with those points we set earlier with the right triangle, we used those to ensure that we were having a straight line along that. We were setting temporary points so that way we could keep pulling to find the center of the west line, which we call WCP. At that WCP, then we set up another triangles on both sides of that point, and we did the same thing going north and then south to find our two corners on the west side of our plat. And then when we went to the east line, we did the same thing, but just going to the east. But then also when we got to the north line, we also pulled to the west now, 104.3, to find that center, our northernmost point. Then when we got to the southeast side, we pulled to the west, 104.3. Again, that's to find our south center point. So that way we had our corners, and we also had a center point between each one of our corners.
All right, as far as our topo goes, we set hubs every 30 feet on our east line. We began with our southeast corner. We numbered our north-south intervals A through H and our east-west 1 through 8. And we ran leveling rods from each one of those intersections in a grid format all the way across our parcel. From the auto level, which we had set up a little bit of ways from our benchmark position, we just ran through finding the heights and reducing our elevation map in the field, and that allowed us to follow the numbers as we were going back and forth through our grid. And after we finished the grid pattern, we also got spots at our east, or all of our center points, to see how those measured to our benchmark elevation. And then just to check back into our benchmark, at the end, we moved our auto level and sighted, I believe it was the northwest corner, and then sighted back to our benchmark, checking elevation there. everything seemed to check, and we came out pretty confident in how our topo set out.
So some of our probable errors and mistakes was definitely the wind, which we are kind of used to being in northern Illinois, but this was something different. The measurement in the steel tape, trying to pull that through all the vegetation and the wind was definitely very hard. Since we pretty much rounded our measurements, we were off a 10 in every direction, north, south, east, and west on line, which we then took into our map. And then the misreading of the compass or the level, since that's kind of human error.
So then our reflection on everything that has happened these last few days. I don't know if I mentioned this at the beginning, this is our first time at a competition. So our topic was being able to set out the boundary with minimal equipment and information. Like many groups have said before, when you're going to Engineers Without Borders, it's one of those things that you might not know exactly what you have to do until you get there. Our exercise was to lay out an acre with only a benchmark, a compass, a level rod, a level, and then 100-foot tape is what we use, or any sort of steel tape. The relation between this is the ability to do an original survey where you would not have the most recent technology. This exercise shows the difference in procedure in completing a layout with the minimal equipment. At our school, we're used to using total stations, robots, all that type of stuff. So, and I know working in the field, I'm used to all that. So it was very difficult to almost get into that and not being able to use the equipment that we've been used to for so long. And then lastly, we would just like to thank all of our sponsors, the Illinois Surveyors Association, the Northeast Chapter, and Winnebago Chapter helped us a lot with all of our funding, and then also our professor, Corey Allred, helped us a lot and walked us through what we did wrong at 5 o'clock last night. So, other than that, I guess we'll open it up to any questions.
Advisors, judges, any questions?
Yeah, what was your error of closure?
It's not on.
What was your error of closure? What was the radius of your ellipse of precision when you got done? You mentioned some of the blunders, but then you took those out. So what was your closure?
Our error of closure was 1 in 3,000.
Did I hear you correctly that you only had a 100-foot tape?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, our professor really doesn't like us all the time, so we made us use that. I think some students can understand that.
Yeah. Well, it probably helped you some with the wind, but it certainly made it more difficult for your side dimensions, I would imagine, in anything longer than 100 feet. I saw you were using 104-foot dimensions.
Yeah, with that, we would about every probably 80 to 60 feet, we would put a temporary point in, and then we pull off the last temporary point and then go through that new temporary point, so we were keeping a straight line that whole time. And we were just setting the temporary points as we go. And we had a guy would be behind and making sure everything was straight. Ryan would be behind with a field book drawing the picture and making sure everything was leveling out. So it wasn't really as big of a mistake or holdback as we thought it could have been.
But good overcoming.
Oh, thank you.
Any other questions from judges? Any other questions from the audience, from the students? Question there?
So if I was reading your slide right, you were rounding to the nearest tenth on all your measurements for the boundary, or is it just in general?
I believe each way we went from our center points, we were trying to measure, to was ended up being 5/10, and 500s off each line. That's what we ended up being when we measured.
Okay.
So then, adding up to the 10.
Any other questions from the audience? Petitioners? Okay, one of the front.
Yeah, once we got it in a CAD and to check everything from the book we put in there, we ended up like 50 square feet off an acre, according to that. So.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.